Good afternoon, good morning, depending upon the zone you are attending us today. Thank you very much and welcome to the Hitachi Social Innovation Forum. This we are going to devote to understanding artificial intelligence and its adoption in post-COVID India. So we welcome our guests here, Ms. Anna Roy from the Government of India. We have Ms. Vijaya Dipti, CEO of Tata IQ, Insights and Quants, and we have Professor Laha, Arnob Laha from IIM Ahmedabad. Guests, all of you, a warm welcome from Hitachi family. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we get started, let's have a little bit of introduction and let's get to hear a little bit from Ms. Roy. Ms. Roy, would you please share? You have a very distinguished background. You have been advising the government of India on many different situations, artificial intelligence, ethics, multiple situations, multiple topics. Would you please share a little bit about your background with us today, audience? Ms. Roy?
Uh, Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for first of all, Times Network to give me to have given this opportunity to me. I joined NITI around three and a half years back, and before that, I was a finance person. So technology happened in NITI, and it happened post demonetization when NITI was given the charge to promote digital payments. In a mission mode, we brought in very many initiatives to promote digital payments in the country. Several schemes were launched, several initiatives were taken, and it was a very enlightening experience. And as I said, technology was happening for the first time to me. In 2018, we came out with the National Strategy on Artificial Intelligence, which has been accepted by the government and is now, it is afoot to roll out the program to implement this strategy by the Ministry of Electronics and IT. Because as you know, Niti Aayog is the think tank of the government. We do not get involved in the implementation part. And we are sharing the policy prescriptions. So this strategy was very well received both within India and also globally. It put India on the global space of AI, where we joined the a few select club of countries which had a proper strategy in place. Now, of course, the race has seen many more countries join hands in bringing out a strategy, but we were one of the few who were the front runners in bringing out a national strategy. And we also coined the term of AI for all, because if you have gone through our strategy, you will see that we are not proposing that we become the AI leaders of the world as in development. What we are proposing is, given the challenges that the country faces, especially in the social sector, the new technology, including AI, and it's a bouquet of technologies. Besides AI, you have drones and other such technologies. Together, I think they present a very important, solution to our challenges. And in social sector, it is access, lack of professionals, lack of resources. So this cyber physical kind of a new technology under the bouquet of IR4 is something which is really geared to meeting such challenges. And I think the time is right that India leads this race. And that is what the premise of the national strategy was, that how India can, become the tech garage of the world, the AI garage, where you solve for India and you solve for the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's move to Ms. Deepti Vijaya. Ms. Deepti, Tata, Insights and Quants. It's doing a lot of interesting stuff. It's a fantastic organization, bringing in so much of insight, so much of the next generation way of working into the Tata Group. But we would love to hear from you a little bit about your background and the kind of impact, the business impact, the technical impact that you are bringing to your organization. Mr. The floor is yours.
From Tata Insights and Quant's perspective, we have been possibly the one of the few startups within the Tata Group. So I've had the fortunate experience of leading a startup for the Tata Group. The group itself has a number of such initiatives, and one of the initiatives that the group felt was really important was to look at how data and analytics can help the group companies to really embed advanced analytics in the way they work, in the way the processes are delivered, in the way the plant is operated, and so on. And this has been about 5.5 years now. In this whole journey that we have had, we have played a number of different roles. We have helped companies in understanding and embedding the culture of analytics within their organizations. We have actually helped them in delivering and understanding the challenges of implementing AI based solutions within the plant, within operations, looking at the type of speed, the type of response, the type of if you like, the explainability challenges and so on. I think we've had a very interesting journey within the group, and we've been able to lead a number of different initiatives, and it's been fairly interesting because of the type of impact that we've had. We've been able to, provide a non-linear, if you like, savings for the group, in terms of not just the operations, but in terms of some of their environmental sustainability challenges and so on. I think from that perspective, the journey has been very interesting, and as we go along, I would love to share some of the type of work that we have done.
Ms. Roy, if you look at the AI ethics, the policies, some of the stuff that the governments around the world were very actively working on today to set the standards for AI applications, because AI applications do have the potential of wreaking havoc in society, in governments. So, what is your take on the AI ethics? How should we structure it? Is there a policy framework in place? If you can please share with us a little bit some of the important movements that's happening today in our government.
Yeah, certainly. So I think that is one of the most important questions which we are faced today. And Niti Aayog, right in the very beginning, in the national strategy on AI, uh, underlined the need for not ignoring the flip side of AI. There is a bias, there could be privacy issues, several other, because we still are in the realm of black box AI. So accountability and the entire recourse to explain it, recourse to a recipient becomes very compromised in such a scenario. We highlighted these issues, but we said that too much of regulation will not be really is the answer. It will not, in our view, address the problems. While the problems are very important and need a lot of consideration, our take was that we need to rely on technology to address these problems. So at the time of writing, at that time itself, many big companies, as the landscape is, where the big tech companies, say Google and all, have the had the wherewithal to undertake this kind of a research. So at that time also, Google was working on addressing the bias in a model. What are the ways you can address a bias? Our recommendation in the paper was that we should look towards the technology and not try to throw the baby with the bathwater. Because it is an evolving technology, and too much of regulation and too much of restrictions at such an early stage will stifle the innovation and will not allow us to reap the benefits. Without undermining the importance of these issues, we look towards the technology. And I think, in hindsight, that was a good approach that we proposed in the strategy. Today, we see that more and more technology is coming into fore. Niti Aayog has been in the forefront of piloting many of these technologies. We have come out with a data share consent-based data sharing architecture, which is called DAPA, and it is there on our website. The best thing about Niti Aayog, whatever work we do, we put on our website. We see consultations, stakeholder consultations. So, people like you or the researchers, I call out to all the audiences, who are working in the space of AI to regularly visit our website, because we regularly come out with research papers seeking comments. So that is a good way of strengthening the government's hand in bringing out policies which are more relevant, which are more better attuned to the needs of the time. And that is a way of also being part of the entire governance process for all stakeholders. So, data, I feel, is a path-breaking exercise, because data can only be useful if it is shared. But under the cloak of privacy, if we do not allow sharing of data, we do not really benefit. And for India to have become one of the most data-rich countries, one of our USPs is to leverage that data. So this would, I feel, will be a very important thing going forward. The second thing which I would like to stress is the entire policy around responsible AI. So last year we came out with a two-part series, which is an ongoing thing. We'll be coming out with more, subsequent parts of the same series on responsible AI. The first part focused on the guidelines which should be followed in any ecosystem development, whether by the adopters of AI or the research community. And the second part was on the proposed enforcement mechanism. So that is also, by way of a dialogue which we started. And I'm very happy to note that we have completed the entire consultation on part one, including interministerial consultation. And that is the principles part, at least, is done and powdered, as to say. So, like you asked, the policy framework is in the making, and people can join in by sharing their comments to for the policy to evolve over time. This is not a one time kind of exercise. As the technology itself is emerging, I think the entire debate around responsible AI will also emerge with time. So this is an ongoing exercise, and we are very much in the center of it.
Thank you very much. This is a very important take for all of us today. And we really congratulate you and your organization, for the great work that you are doing on the artificial intelligence front to help us leapfrog into really the next generation. Thank you again. So, Professor Laha, you a professor of IIM Ahmedabad, one of our top institutes, management here in India, and you are also an alumnus of Indian Statistical Institute. Would you please share a little bit of your distinguished background with us, uh, the audience
Yeah.
today?
So first of all, thank you and Hitachi Social Innovation Forum for inviting me for this panel discussion. So I've been in the teaching profession for quite some time now, more than 2 decades, and a large part of that has been with the Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad. So my focus area of interest is in application of statistical modeling and data analysis for solving problems in business as well as in allied areas, say, for example, in healthcare. So Primarily, I teach and do research in analytics, and a part of my work is, of course, theoretical modeling and building new methods. But also, I look at various kinds of applications to different areas. Say, for example, as I said, healthcare, finance, marketing, and other allied disciplines, like agriculture is one other area that I have done some work with. So, primarily, the focus is to bring in cutting edge research, um, and apply it in concrete situations, which can help us in bettering some of our processes or systems. So that has been primarily the kind of things that I've done most of the time when it comes to applications. Um, I also do a fair bit of executive education and lead programs in that space. And apart from analytics, two other areas in which I have a fair amount of involvement at IIM is to apply these techniques to quality management and quality control, and also to risk. So primarily risk analysis and its management. Okay, so these are the broad portfolio that I do, primarily along the key ideas of analyzing uncertainty using statistical modeling.
Thank you very much. And every time we hear quality control, we are very happy because we love quality. We love all the quality control methods, techniques, statistics. Well, I won't go there. It's not that. So let's talking about the statistics. Let's start with you, Professor Lal. You know, we hear a lot of things about artificial intelligence, AI, analytics. In very in layman's terms, in a nutshell, would you please share with us a little bit about how you see artificial intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? What is it about? What exactly it is bringing for us to people and the society?
Well, in the last one decade or so, we have seen a lot of hype around this term called artificial intelligence. Now, why I say it's hype? Because people generally start thinking about machines which are capable of general intelligence. Now, the first thing that I would like to point out is that we are still some distance to achieve that. So, the current systems that are available are not really capable of having emotion or love or all those kinds of things that we associate with general intelligence systems. However, artificial intelligence has been one of the greatest progress in for mankind ever since the development of nuclear energy. I think it is a game-changing technology that we are building, and we have only possibly gone halfway or maybe even less, and there is a lot of scope of further development in that. Now, coming to the specifics, I would like to think of AI system as more of a software technology. So it's a technology which has certain characteristics. Say, for example, it can do perception, and that can be used in problems like face recognition, which we nowadays use a lot in our phones, voice recognition, which again has some very interesting applications. We are seeing machines being able to write paragraphs and composing prose to the extent that in sometimes it is very difficult to understand whether the prose has been generated by machine or by human. So text analytics is a very important area that has allowed artificial intelligence to prosper. Traditionally, of course, even way back in the 60s, we had systems which were capable for automated decision making. And we, in the with growth of computing power, what we are seeing today are full-fledged systems which are able to do things like diagnostic imaging. So if you can give a X-ray to a machine, it can figure out abnormalities in that X-ray if it is properly trained. So those kind of tasks, basically expert systems, as we used to call them earlier, have a lot of applications in various fields: medicine, education, industrial automation, and many other roles. When we are talking of perception, one important capability that I must focus on is image processing and image identification or object identification in images. That has huge applications in industry, particularly in determining whether a product is good or not, and uh, whether it will pass inspection or standard inspections that are generally happen in these organizations. And that's very important because if a product is found to be defective early on in the process, you do not add value to it, and therefore you can save a lot of money by early weeding out of those defective items from the process. Also, we have seen, and this has touched all our lives, a great advancement in navigation and weather forecasting. So nowadays, we have seen that India has been able to weather large storms much better than it was able or it was capable of maybe even a decade earlier, largely because of the information that we can get and the precision of the information that we have now. It has dramatically revolutionized navigation through the GPS. And as any of us who have used Google Maps, we know how effectively it tells you not only the path, but also the likely time that it will take to reach that destination. So all these predictive capabilities of AI have been of enormous benefit. Unfortunately, human society also needs to mature. And what we are seeing as a challenge, particularly in the social sector, is the circulation of news items which are not true, which has been generally referred to as fake news. And one of the challenges that an artificial intelligence system would have is to sort of figure out which of these news is news, that means they are accurate, and which of these are actually fake. And it is very, very important that the fake news is actually weeded out before it causes damage. In a fragile society, in fragile societies in many parts of the world, this is an extremely important task because fake news can create social unrest of a kind which we do not want. So therefore, it is very important that we have good systems which are able to detect it, and work is in progress. Also, we think that much of this will of these AI systems, this technology is interactive, and we are seeing that is allowing this technology to permeate. Say, for example, chatbots have been widely adopted by various organizations to seamlessly interface with their customers. And also, there have been some very interesting development in terms of academic research, like when you have a sort of a molecule which has to be tested for, say, toxicity. Earlier, we would require extensive wet tests to be able to do that. Now, a lot of them can actually be weeded out through automatic reasoning that these are likely to be uh, poisonous or lethal to human organisms, and they need not actually be wet tested. And that will bring down cost of drug development substantially. So all of these are what I listed are features of different artificial intelligence systems. So, to my mind, a system which has any of these dimensions can properly be called an artificial intelligence system. And as we go along, we would possibly see an integration of these various kinds of systems to build large overarching system, uh, possibly in a few years from now. And that's what I think we
Sure.
are. Yeah.
Professor Lahab, once you come up with an AI system to answer the questions of your papers, let me know. I would love to enroll so that AI can help me pass the test. This is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating. The kind of things, the kind of improvement. We have a question though. This is more for the audience. This is a poll question. You have a few minutes to answer. This will be, you know, you can see you'll be seeing this question. Can artificial intelligence really help us? I mean, we know that the AI has the self-driven, self-driving cars and all are the one of the biggest trends today. Now, do you really think cars can self-drive themselves around the congested roads here in India? Say next 5 years, 10 years, can it really do? So the answer is yes, no, maybe. This is for the audience to answer. So let's move on to a very interesting aspect. You touched upon, Professor Laha, on what AI is, some of the use cases, and some of the interesting adoption patterns that you are seeing, you know, from the standpoint of all these engagements. People are working with you in academia, in some of the cutting edge research work. This question is more for Ms. Vijayaditi. Ms. Dipti, Tata IQ, of course, a lot of stuff, a lot of things going on. What are some of the post-COVID patterns that you are seeing that in the adoption of artificial intelligence? What is your take post-COVID AI use cases in the industry?
So that's a very interesting and question. And one of the questions that we were asking ourselves is, what should be normal in the in our factories, actually, if you like, in terms of our ability to comply with the SOPs to really make uh, uh, the factory workers be safe actually at the factories and so on. So no, the we started off with first trying to do some contact tracing, understanding who were our employees, who were they coming into contact with, and can we make sure that we understand the type of exposures that they have had. But then going on beyond that, the next challenge was in terms of when they come in into the factories, can we make sure that they are protected? So their ability, are they wearing their PPE kits actually? So for that too, we started using computer vision. To look at whether they're wearing the vest, they're wearing the gloves, the goggles, the helmets, and so on. And that was an extension of some of the capabilities that we had built up for security at sites actually. So we extended that out into the post-COVID area, and we started using these for health and safety at the factories. The other challenge was in terms of the social distancing actually. So again, that's where we started using computer vision models for identifying how close are people, and can we look at raising alerts very quickly and so on. So this was, I think, from a factory perspective, a lot of work was done to make sure that we could use computer vision for managing the safety of the workers at site. Beyond this, I think the other challenge that organizations have been grappling with is to understand their supply chains actually, to look at what are the impacts that this is likely to have. And this is something which the group has been working on, to look at their whole. I mean, Professor Lahayam mentioned about the whole risk management and the risk management processes around that. And there too, a lot of work is being happening, with the group in terms of forecasting where are the likely hotspots likely to be, what are the, if a black swan event occurs, what's the likely impact of that black swan events and all that. So forecasting has been like the bread and butter for the procurement departments, and I think they're now really deepening their models actually, and enriching their models in terms of looking at not just the data, that's the structured data, but also looking at some of the unstructured data that is coming through. So I think a lot of work has been happening with both computer vision category, with NLPs that you were talking of, and with digital analytics, and looking at the type of news feeds that are coming up with from specific sources actually, and agglomerating all of that to look at what are the likely impacts on the supply chains. I think from that perspective, we've been doing a lot of very interesting work in for both the procurement and the plant and operations teams actually. So I think a lot of interesting work that's been happening there.
Thank you very much. And this social distancing thing, it's such an important thing. Now, the computer vision, the computer eye can actually pick up whether there is a crowding in the place, just like the way it recognizes the face, the images from the images, certain objects, and stuff like that. Thank you very much. Now, here is a question. Here is our next poll question. This is for the audience again. This question is about post COVID AI. Do you think COVID really has accelerated the adoption of artificial intelligence in our industry, in our lives? Answers again yes, no, maybe. Has COVID brought in, ushered in a shift in the patterns of AI adoption? Or if you think it's not just AI, also the use of data and analytics, all that is encompassed when we talk about AI. So, has it brought in a more bigger AI adoption? So, this is the second poll question that we have. So, let's go to Professor Laha for a moment. Uh, Here we are with artificial intelligence. You said this is one thing which is like after the nuclear thing and all, this is one of the most important happenings on the planet today, because there are more and more data systems, digital systems, and out of that we are mining the signals, we are trying to find out what's going on around us, and we are trying to apply for our society, for our people, for our industry in many contexts. Professor Laha, what's next in AI? What are some of the research areas in artificial intelligence, which is catching a lot of attention today? What can we expect in future? Can we expect a digital kingship, digital twin doing this for us?
Um, the answer to that last question is possibly yes. So, we are not
Thank
very
you
far
for
away from
making me
that.
feel so good.
So, well, I think many progress in science happens because we attempt to solve problems that are encountered by the technology. So, if we look at what are the current problems that the technology is facing, one is that much of the AI systems, even when it is most useful, is still a black box. And whenever we have a black box giving us yes and no answers, we have a fundamental unhappiness or disquiet in our minds, that why is it giving an answer no to me and yes to someone else? So one big challenge, and where I think a lot of research will be directed in the near future, is to make some of these systems explainable. Explainable statistical models had been there for a long time, but the newer systems, the more complicated neural network based systems, do not have a direct way of explaining. So we need innovative research in that space to sort of be able to tell that, well, the decision was largely guided because of XYZ parameters. So that is one area that I want to I am looking forward. Second is that I'm looking forward is a lot of research on use of image processing and audio signal processing. So if you look at how humans communicate, we see, we hear, and we are able to speak or write. So these are the fundamental ways in which we are able to communicate amongst ourselves. Now, that is trying to see that can we detect or can we use a camera to do the work that we are doing with our eyes? Say, for example, things like reading a newspaper to the blind. It's very easy today because the newspaper can be scanned, um, can be put into text form, and then there will be a software which will uh, sort of read it out. So read out loud is a common feature in many software today, and that is a simple example of the kind of potential this technology. So if we can use a camera to detect anomalies, to detect situations where we need to take action, as you mentioned, maybe a crowd forming somewhere with a not so great intent, that would be definitely helpful in some instances. But I think a lot of this will also be useful in prevention. So if a crowd forms and breaking it up is a very difficult thing. But say, for example, if you're looking at a social distancing norm, if you can tell the person that if you go beyond this point, there is a danger to your own health, the person may not actually go far. So proactively preventing that kind of situation happening can again be done using visual aids. So I actually look forward to see a lot of industrial as well as social applications of um, the new capabilities of analyzing images and video. Another area where I actually look forward is audio signal processing. So, say for example, we actually pick up a lot of cues from the environment by hearing, and if that can actually be utilized, I saw a recent um, sort of a document from an organization which sort of tried to use this for defect detection in their machine. So basically, the idea is that they are actually generating audio signals from this machine when it is running fine, and then they're trying to sort of figure out that whether the machine has gone out of or needs repairance or some other problem has happened in the machine by analyzing the sound that is coming, and if the sound sort of does not match the sound that it was generating when it was running fine, you have a cause for alert. Whenever you are driving cars, we sort of uh, look at that, right? So we sort of try to, whenever some sound comes which is not normal, we got sort of gets alerted, and that is a very similar process that they are trying to adopt for complex industrial machines. So I think this would be very interesting areas that we will be seeing applications to. We will also see applications in area of AI development of AI ethics and standards. Very important today because if we have to overcome the challenges that will be posed by such a powerful technology, a game-changing technology, we need to have good regulations, good enabling regulations, and that will be sort of accomplished if we have good AI ethics and standards. I look forward to see, because we are thinking of a post-COVID world, more focus on use of AI in disease surveillance. It is sad that we missed this epidemic despite a high profile warning by Bill Gates and also a movie which was made, which was basically a scenario development for infectious disease spreading across the world. Now, unfortunately, even after all this, we missed this COVID 19 pandemic. So I think there will be a lot of emphasis on using AI in disease surveillance in the coming years because we possibly cannot afford to have a major disruption caused by a microscopic organism very often. Climate change is a big elephant in the room. It is happening at a faster pace, and it requires the world to come together, and AI can provide an enabling solution for that. and of course my favorite, healthcare. I think if we want to provide a billion Indians with good quality healthcare, we need to adopt AI big time. And two other areas where I think we will see great traction. One is autonomous cars, and and I think autonomous cars will be super hit in developing countries like India because it will save so many accidents. Uh, a very large number of people get killed in accidents on the road, and through autonomous cars, a large proportion of these accidents can be eliminated, and that is a great benefit for a society like ours. And therefore, I hope and I believe there will be great uptake of autonomous cars in developing countries like ours, and education, and that is a field I think is up for disruption because what we know is that students are not alike. Students learn in different ways. They learn at different times. They learn through different inputs. And now, all this is known, but it is very difficult to or make all of these come together. Now, AI provides us with a good opportunity to make that happen. And I think uh, it will be very exciting next decade as we move ahead in AI.
Thank you very much. I mean, you actually, touched upon some of the things. I learned a lot. Absolutely, yes. It's not just about building up another model and the accuracy, but also about the consumption, how this is being used, how this is really helping. And thank you very much for your, articulate response on that. So helpful. So we have to end the segment here today. I must Let me summarize a little bit here. So we heard the from Ms. Anna Roy. She is an advisor to Niti Aayog, one of our apex agencies, which is really that we heard the vision from her, like how the government is actually adopting AI for improving our everyday lives here in India. It's fascinating. Some of the vision that she presented, some of the work that is going on, it's simply fabulous. We heard from Ms. Vijayadipti, a very important industry perspective in the post-COVID AI. What are the industry use cases? How is the industry leveraging artificial intelligence analytics to take care of this, to take, to take on the challenges of this new world, the emerging world, social distancing and stuff like that, image recognition, computer vision, big time in the foreground today. And we also heard from her, like how when we apply AI in industry use cases, some of the challenges and how to mitigate them. And finally, it was Professor Laha who shared with us the interesting nuances of AI, artificial intelligence, what is going to come, what is there in store for us in future, and some of the fascinating work that is happening in the research labs there. Professor Laha, professor of uh, quantitative studies in IIM Ahmedabad, Ms. Vijaya CEO of Tata Insights and Quants, and Ms. Anna Roy, advisor to Niti Aayog, very important, sharing with us a very important perspective on AI for our own governance here in India. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for your really active, very energetic participation. We would love to hear from the audience, uh, and we really hope that artificial intelligence can help us in a big way for a better society. Thank you. Thank you again. And we end the segment here. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you. Bye bye.